and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Townhall, a series of exclusive conversations that we do across the length and breadth of the country to connect better with you, the entrepreneur, giving you the opportunity to be front and center. Tonight, bringing you all the key takeaways and highlights that we did in Delhi, talking about how Delhi has moved from being the jugaad capital of the country to the startup hub or the startup capital. Pooja Jain, my colleague, moderated that panel discussion with some very interesting takeaways. Take a listen.
Help describe when the lines began to blur between personal jugaad and your professional journey. Let's start with you.
Hey, hi everyone. Thank you for having me on the show. I think our journey really started with a personal problem. I mean, I have my son in the audience today, and he's the reason why we started this company, because we could not find safe and natural products for our son in the Indian consumer market, and we tried a lot of jugaads, including importing stuff from US and doing a lot of different things, but finally we felt that a parent goes through so much pain already, why should they go through so much more pain just to get some right products for their kids? So we started this company, and in fact when we were starting it, apart from the products which were standard global products, one of the things that we found was that there are a lot of jugaad that we as parents do, right? I mean, for example, a very simple thing, and I'm sitting in Delhi, so you guys will be able to relate with me. For colic or digestion, we apply hing and coconut oil on our babies' tummies, right? And we used some of those as inspiration to create products. So we actually have something called an easy tummy roll-on, right? Where all of that mixture is present and you can just rub it in the tummy and you're done, right? So as we tried and saw what were people doing at home for centuries, right? Like Upton and some of the other things, right? And we converted those into products. So I think I would call that as jugaad innovation as it gets.
Fair enough, can't argue with that. And Rahul, you have an interesting story of your own, so the floor is yours.
So I heard this term for the first time when I moved to Delhi. I'm a Bombay boy, and as I love to say, I'm trapped in Delhi from 22 years. But for me, the moment I moved to Delhi in the year 2001, because I married a Delhi girl, I think it was a series of jugaads only which has kept me here for 22 years, right? So everything is a jugaad here, right? From finding a house, which I was told is a terrace flat, and I had not experienced a Delhi summer, so I ended up taking a Barsati. And then when the Delhi summer hit me, then I was given all kinds of jugaad solutions, how to cool it down, to doing my third startup, but my first tech startup, which was called Fashion & You in 2009. And we were selling luxury apparel online, and those were all high-ticket items. And we realized that none of the guys were wanting to use their cards. So jugaad called cash on delivery happened. And I still remember when we did the first highest ticket item in Indian e-commerce at that time, I sold a Tag Heuer watch for 1.4 lakhs online. And the lady wanted to pay in cash. And Blue Dart said, we can't take that cash. So how do you do it? So we actually flew down a guy from our office because the ticket size was worth that much. He went, he collected, and he came. The second time we had the same challenge. It was a lady in an area in Hyderabad where the courier partner said, agar main jaunga to main wapas zinda aunga ki nahi, mujhe nahi pata sir. So then we figured out a way where we sort of convinced somebody, an offline retailer, to sort of be our partner and say, okay, you come there and we come there. So it's been a series of that. For me, but personally, when you say personal, professional, for me the challenge was my wife, hardcore Sabjang Enclave B7 girl, Pallavi Rao. She was an RJ with Radio Mirchi, and in 2005 she had an autoimmune disorder called myasthenia gravis. During surgery, one of her vocal cords got cut, the other got paralyzed. Head of ENT Apollo said, voice will never come back. And we went to every medical facility we could think of. Every doctor said, nahi hoga, because the only solution was one vocal cord was curved, so it's a Teflon coated injection. And Pallavi basically just wrote, I don't want this. And we found this awesome guy called Pawan, who was a yoga teacher. And first anomaly for me was a Jat young guy saying, I'm a yoga teacher. And he said, I will solve this. So apart from, of course, pranayama and nutrition, he made a wooden clamp. And he would get her to exercise with that clamp for 2.5 years and shortening it. And it was a complete jugaad tech. When all the best medical doctors said, not possible, just that wooden clamp and exercises with Pawan, Pallavi got a voice back after 2.5 years and went back on air. So that's a personal
What a
jugaad
story.
from me.
I mean, what a story from both of our panelists. And Rahul, it's over to you now, and I must say you have a tough act to follow.
Yeah, so when I was listening to them, I probably remember the time when we started the company, right? And we were still working in our last companies when we started it. तो हमें जगह चाहिए होती थी कहाँ से like Saturday, Sunday को मिलके कहाँ पे काम करें,
जी.
right? And at that time in 2016, there were not a lot of co-working spaces that were there at that time who could give us a space for a day. Day pass नहीं होता था उस time पे. तो at times we thought कि अच्छा Saturday को office खुला होता है, we would go to the office and we will work from there. So it was just the three of us, the three co-founders. We were on the same company. We went there, हमने कहा Saturday को कौन ही होगा. Unfortunately, the 2 times that we went there, both the times our CEO and CTO, they came in there because there was some investor meeting that was about to happen और वो कुछ उनको deck वगैरह पे काम करना होता था. So tell them कि नहीं यार हम तो we had something left from the week, we are doing that. They will, if they're probably watching this, they will probably kill me for it. But उस time पे ये था, and then we obviously didn't want to like spend a lot. We started going to coffee shops to work. And coffee shop में like कितनी देर बैठ के काम करोगे? तो 3 co-founders we would offer 1 coffee at a time. पहले मेरी कॉफ़ी आती थी, मैं 2 घंटा पीता था, ठीक है, for 150 rupees. Then the other co-founder would drink it for 150 rupees. That's how we managed to stay there for like 5-6 hours without anyone questioning कि ये 3 लड़के कोने का टेबल क्यों गिर के बैठे हुए हैं, right? So that was, we had to do it because we had made up our mind that we will bootstrap this, and we had started saving up for ourselves. कि अगले, like we need to save for at least 9 months or 1 year. So we do not need to spend a lot on things that we can avoid. And at the same time, for some reasons, we could not work at anyone's home. So that was like the jugaad that we did at that time. Ki, how do we meet in person and build the product at that time.
Yeah. Well, the 3 of you, I must say, give jugaad new meaning. So good call. But let's focus the conversation a bit on the elephant in the room, which is the fact that, and Varun, I'll start with you here, that if Delhi is now coined as India's startup capital, given that it's home to over 5,000 startups, if you look at the NCR region, we're home to roughly 7,000 startups. So we've edged Bangalore by a narrow margin, but not a margin that hasn't gone unnoticed. So I'd love to first kick off the conversation by asking you, is this a development that's taken you by surprise?
I don't think it's taken me by surprise at all. In fact, if you look at Delhi in terms of combination of industries and talent, it has the best mix here. And from financial institutions also which are there, which is forte for Bombay, to tech companies which are also there like Google and etc., which is also supposed to be forte of Bangalore, to marketing companies which are all based there. I think from a mix perspective, Delhi NCR was best suited to sort of give rise to startups across diverse sectors. And early on, most of the wave that came in the technology space, right? Which is why the numbers were higher in Bangalore. But now the wave that is coming in is actually across sectors, fintech, edtech, right? And hence that mix of talent and diversity is far more present in Delhi. And I think from a cost of life perspective, from a space availability perspective, and the ecosystem available here is far larger, and hence I think this is a trend which was meant to happen, and it has finally taken shape.
All right. Well, Rahul, while Varun brings up a very valid point, which is that Delhi is home to sectors across the board, from edtech to medtech, from food tech to fintech, over 70% of Delhi's startups are in the B2C space. So what do you attribute that to? Why that sector in particular? Why Delhi? Why now?
So if I've had a ringside view, right? I've been here 22 years and I've seen Delhi NCR evolve. Bangalore started off this whole thing because of the Infosys of the world where tech talent was available. So I remember a friend of mine, Pranay Chule, he started quicker in Bombay, couldn't find tech talent, had to move to Bangalore.
Right.
Right? But since I was here in the retail real estate space, Delhi NCR and the whole of North is the consumption capital of this country, especially in the luxury and the premium space. So that market was already there. And by definition, when most of the people started looking at opportunities, like when Varun and Ghazal started Mamaearth, they saw that their early adopters and their early customers were here, right? So that J curve was much easier to get here versus if you look at Bangalore even today. Even when they do startups, the first market they look at is Delhi NCR. Right. Okay, I think that has been one. And again, if I give a Bombay Delhi answer, Delhiites like to dress up, they love fashion, all of that. हम बॉम्बे वाले लोकल ट्रेन में यार क्या अच्छा कपड़ा पहने को बाहर निकलने तक तो वैसी वाट लग जाती है, right? So we don't dress up, right? Here you have weather, you have seasons, so you have a winter wear, you have a summer wear, and all of that. So if you look at all those smaller factors, I think it's a natural extension.
I'll slip into a short break. On that note, we're back in just a moment. Welcome back. Here with us on Leaders of Tomorrow Town Hall.
I want you to weigh in on this, Rahul, because, a sort of follow-up point to all this is while quantity, of course, matters, so does quality, right? In terms of quality of the startup, its strength. And what are some of your observations there? I think, on the one hand, many may argue that, look, founders or entrepreneurs are now a lot more seasoned. And we're seeing far fewer copycat or Me Too players. Has that been your experience as you've kind of ramped up your own company?
It is, I mean, if we were to compare it, let's say, to startups maybe in Bangalore, to the ones that are in Delhi, so Bangalore has always had that head start probably over Delhi. For the reasons Rahul mentioned that, you had Infosys, you had Wipro over there, and you had your IASC, ISRO, DRDO. It had that technical head start. And I guess, जैसे करके startups will come up in Delhi, it sort of has a network effect. कि धीरे धीरे करके it would sort of explode even more in Delhi, and it would not be just like copycat models जो like कुछ बाहर को copy किया है यहाँ पे बना दिया. You would see a lot of new companies that are, let's say, new concepts that are being tried out for the first time maybe in Delhi NCR, enabled a lot by maybe government actions that are happening. And when you look at NCR, it's also like you're looking at 3 different states who are trying to push things, right? It's Delhi, Gurgaon, and Noida. And in fact, a lot of concentration is there in Gurgaon and Noida more than probably in Delhi. So I guess just the fact that the entire ecosystem, when you combine the 3 cities together, is so huge that yes, we would see like more startups coming up. And just as like we now have, let's say, in terms of numbers, we have more startups here than in Bangalore. There is an argument that goes against it, which says that Bangalore startups get in more investments as compared to Delhi.
Right.
But then I guess that would change, right? So like I said, it's a network effect. Probably 2-3 years down the line, that storyline would also change maybe.
All right, fair enough. And Varun, I'd like to build on some of Rahul's observations here, because number of unicorns has also kind of become a metric for how you measure the strength of a startup ecosystem. And if we look at the recent past between Snapdeal and Policy Bazaar and Delivery and Zomato and Paytm, and the list goes on, do you believe this is a valid litmus test for truly testing Delhi's potential as remaining the startup capital of the country?
Well, I think unicorn is a milestone in the journey of a startup, and but really, how does number of companies going public, in my mind, is a much better metric, right?
Sure.
And I would add to the list like Ease My Trip right now, Ixigo, right? And a lot more sustainable, growing businesses which have the ability to go public, right? The largest number, in my mind, that will be the bigger metric to see for any market rather than just the unicorn status, because they come and go, right? And hence I would put public markets as a better metric.
Rahul, do you echo the same sentiment? You know, these sort of valuations come and go.
So, see, valuation is somebody's opinion, right? And it can change over. So, a Snapdeal might be at 6.5 billion and then go to 800 billion and then go whatever. And last couple of days have been a roller coaster, right? But again, as if you need to simplify something, you need some metrics, right?
Right.
But what I've seen dramatically change over the last few years is, what I love about this generation of entrepreneurs is our generation and the generation before, whatever money we made from the ecosystem, our parents, our CAs would say, pehle real estate mein dalo, put there. But this generation is putting it back into the ecosystem. So the first checks most young entrepreneurs are getting are people like Varun and Ghazal. They're writing back checks, and that is now creating this whole ecosystem, right? So I was chatting with Rahul and he said, out of iXujugo, some 6-7 startups have formed. Now you look at the Flipkart mafia, globally we had the PayPal mafia. So all these companies, and what I love about this current time is these kids are doing it for the right reasons. So you look at a Udaan, you look at a Sujit at Udaan. I met some of these kids in Bangalore, and I met this young entrepreneur, and he's staying in that same 1 BHK, and he's still running a CRs, and he's doing it for the right reasons, right? He's solving a problem, that kick and all of that, which earlier was a bit missing in this part of the country, but now last few years, it's tremendously accelerated. That's the great part of these times.
All right. What I'd like to understand from you, Rahul, is if everything is accelerating and, supposedly moving forward, how has that influenced ticket size of startup investments? Who can they approach for financing? Whose doors can they knock on? What are the resources that they can ultimately avail?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask that question because I bootstrapped the company.
Right. But you must have considered multiple avenues before you made that decision.
Yeah, I mean, we do have investor interest coming in, and that's what I probably want to focus on. That people say that, you have a great investor network in Bangalore, and probably the strength of the ecosystem that we were talking about also comes from the strength of the people that are there, the network that is there. Valuations are, secondary, like they said, they come and go, but then it's the people who are there who can sort of, pass it on to the next set of entrepreneurs who are coming in. Can they mentor them? Can they invest in them? More than investment is the mentorship. That's probably the thing that I missed out on when I started, that I did not really know a lot of SaaS startup founders who had bootstrapped their way to a certain scale. That's the part that you miss. And that's probably what I hear from people who are there in Bangalore, that kisi bhi coffee shop mein chala jao, you would find another startup guy who is there, who has probably done it, might have succeeded, might have failed, but then he can at least tell you a few things about where you are going right, where you're going wrong. So I guess in terms of investment ka ticket size, it probably does not matter. As long as you're doing good business, investors will find you. We have been approached by a lot of investors, even though there are times when we are not even actively looking for it. Investors will find you, not even from India, they will find you from outside of India as well. They would want to invest in you if you're doing good business. So I think just focusing on building the business, regardless of which city you're operating in, it should be the way to go, maybe.
Sure. Well, that leads me to my next question, which is to you, Varun. I want to approach it from two ends, in that, first of all, say an entrepreneur has investors lined up or investors demonstrating interest. How do they go about determining the partner of choice, the preferred partner and platform of choice for them to truly scale their business? And then I'll come to you, Rahul, because I'd love your perspective on how you go about identifying which companies are actually investor worthy. Two sides of the same coin, but I think we need to hear both perspectives.
So I think the framework that we have always used is, see, money is money, right? But when you're bringing an investor on board, it's also a very long-term relationship that you're signing up for, and it's almost like, from a company perspective, it's like getting married, right?
Right.
You're going to be a part of the same board. You're going to go through ups and downs together, have a laugh or cry together, right? And also create value together, and hence, 2 or 3 other things that at least we look for. And one is, what is their hypothesis on your industry? Why are they interested, right? Is it just flavor of the season, or is it that they genuinely believe that what you're building and what you're solving for is something very valuable, and they've been looking for, organizations in that space or the right teams in that space? And second thing that we at least have done is always talk to the founders that they have invested in earlier. And there is this founder to founder trust, which kind of, it's an unsaid thing, right? That, we won't screw each other, right, by giving the wrong advice, right? And hence that always comes in handy because you know what you're signing up for, right? And you can ask questions like, hey, how pushy are they? How micro are they, right? Do they give you independence to run your ship the way you want to? And the third thing that I always recommend is go out and have a drink or a dinner with them. And if you can't jam with them as people, as friends, right, it'll be very difficult to sort of go on a ride with them. Right? So you should feel very comfortable with the people that you're signing up on. So I think those three.
All very tangible takeaways. Rahul.
So Varun said marriage, and on a lighter note, I keep telling startups, getting funding is like getting a mother-in-law in your life. If you are lucky, or nooks kam nikalegi. Okay. But I'll tell you honestly, a lot of these kids, when they look for funding, I tell them, you have to do your homework, like what Varun said. That chemistry has to match. Today, of course, the startup system is more evolved. The best investor for you is another founder because he's been through that pain. And as Varun said, they'll
Right.
the advice. But today, when I look at, I'm an investor, right? Today, it's the other way around, Pooja. When we find somebody really good, it's like we have to woo them, okay, please take our money. I am going to bring you these connections, I'm going to give you this advice, I'm going to give you this. It's the other way around.
So with that, I thank all of our three panelists once more.
Completely out of time on the Leaders of Tomorrow Town Hall. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want to know where we're headed to next and what we're going to be discussing in our town hall, all of those details on our website, the details of which are coming up as I speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.